The massive crystal ship hung in space like a frozen star. Ben Torres pressed his face against the small window of his transport shuttle and stared at the vessel that would host the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. The Galactic Council had finally agreed to meet with Earth's representatives after decades of ignored requests. "Remember, Ambassador Torres," said Captain Lisa Wong from the pilot's seat, "this is our only chance. Earth needs these trade agreements to survive. Don't mess this up." Ben nodded and straightened his simple blue uniform. He had been chosen not because he was the most experienced diplomat, but because he was the only one who had successfully communicated with 3 different alien species without causing an incident. The other candidates had all failed their first contact tests by being too formal, too aggressive, or too fearful. "Just be yourself," he whispered to his reflection in the window. "That's what got you here." The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Ben gathered his small bag of documents and gifts from Earth. He had insisted on bringing coffee beans, chocolate, and a few books of human poetry. The diplomatic corps had called these choices unprofessional, but Ben believed that sharing culture was more important than following strict protocols. The airlock opened with a hiss. Ben stepped into a corridor that took his breath away. The walls were made of some kind of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. The ceiling stretched high above, and strange musical tones echoed through the space. A small, 4-armed alien in a silver robe approached him. "Ambassador Torres of Earth, I am Guide Nex. I will escort you to the meeting chamber. Please follow exactly in my footsteps and do not touch anything." Ben followed Nex through winding corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size imaginable. There were tall, thin beings with multiple eyes, short creatures covered in colorful fur, and others that seemed to be made entirely of flowing energy. All of them moved with careful precision, as if following invisible rules. "The Valeth Empire hosts this gathering," Nex explained in a whisper. "Queen Zira commands absolute respect. You must not speak unless spoken to. You must not look directly at her. You must not move from your assigned position." "Why?" Ben asked quietly. Nex's 4 arms trembled slightly. "Because she is the most powerful warrior in the galaxy. Her people have never been defeated in battle. Even the oldest civilizations fear her wrath." They entered a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. Delegates from dozens of species stood in perfect rows, each group maintaining exact distances from the others. At the front of the chamber, on a raised platform, stood figures in elaborate armor. Ben had studied files about the Valeth Empire, but seeing Queen Zira in person was different. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with luminescent blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Her armor was crafted from the same crystal as the ship's walls, and it moved with her like a second skin. Her eyes were large and silver, and her hair flowed down her back like liquid starlight. Around her stood her royal guards, each one armed with weapons that hummed with energy. Their faces were hidden behind masks, and they moved with the fluid grace of trained warriors. Guide Nex led Ben to a small section marked with Earth's symbol. "Stand here," Nex whispered. "Do not move. Do not speak. Do not even breathe loudly." Ben looked around at the other delegates. They all stood rigid, their eyes fixed on the floor. The entire chamber was silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Queen Zira began to speak. Her voice was clear and strong, carrying easily through the chamber. "Representatives of the Galactic Council, we gather to discuss the petition of the species called humans. They seek trade agreements and protection under Council law." Ben listened carefully as various delegates spoke about Earth's resources, military capabilities, and potential value to the galactic community. The discussion was formal and cold, treating humanity like a commodity to be evaluated. When a small, rabbit-like delegate from the Pix Federation began to speak, his stack of data tablets slipped from his tiny hands and scattered across the floor. The tablets made a loud clattering sound that echoed through the chamber. The delegate's face turned pale with fear. He looked around desperately, but none of the other representatives moved to help. According to protocol, leaving one's assigned position during formal proceedings was forbidden. Ben saw the terror in the small alien's eyes. Without thinking, he stepped forward and began gathering the scattered tablets. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Ambassador Torres, Guide Nex hissed, return to your position immediately. Ben ignored the warning and continued collecting the tablets. He handed them back to the Pix delegate with a gentle smile. Here you go, he said softly. Happens to the best of us. The small alien stared at Ben in amazement. Thank you, he whispered, his voice trembling with gratitude. Ben returned to his position, aware that every eye in the chamber was now focused on him. He could feel the weight of their stares, but he kept his head high. He had done the right thing. Queen Zira's silver eyes were fixed on him. For the first time since the meeting began, she was looking directly at one of the delegates. Her expression was unreadable, but Ben noticed that her head was tilted slightly, as if she was studying him with new interest. The meeting continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Ben could sense whispered conversations among the delegates, all wondering what would happen to the human who had broken protocol. When the formal session paused for refreshments, Ben found himself standing alone as other delegates avoided him. He pulled out a small container of ground coffee beans from his bag and began preparing a cup using a portable brewing device he had brought from Earth. The rich aroma of coffee filled the air around him. Several curious aliens approached, drawn by the unfamiliar scent. What is this substance? Asked a tall, green-skinned delegate with multiple antennae. It's coffee, Ben explained, offering a small cup. A beverage from Earth. It helps humans stay alert and focused. The green alien took a careful sip and his antennae quivered with surprise. This is remarkable. The flavor is complex, and it produces a warming sensation. Soon, Ben was surrounded by a small group of delegates, all eager to try human coffee. He shared freely, explaining how coffee was grown on Earth and describing the social rituals surrounding its consumption. On Earth, sharing a meal or a drink is a sign of friendship, Ben explained to a crystalline being who seemed fascinated by human customs. We believe that breaking bread together helps people understand each other better. Fascinating, the crystal alien replied. My people communicate through harmonic resonance, but this concept of social consumption is entirely new to us. From across the chamber, Ben noticed that Queen Zira was watching their informal gathering. Her guards had moved closer to her, clearly concerned about the unusual disruption to normal protocol. But the Queen herself seemed more curious than angry. When the formal session resumed, Queen Zira addressed the chamber again. The petition of Earth raises important questions about council membership. We must consider not only their resources and capabilities, but their character as a species. She paused and looked directly at Ben. Ambassador Torres, you have twice violated established protocol. Do you have an explanation for your behavior? The chamber fell silent. Ben could feel his heart pounding, but he stood straight and met the Queen's gaze. Your Majesty, I acted according to human values. When someone needs help, we help them. When someone is curious about our culture, we share it. These actions felt more important than following rules. A murmur of shock rippled through the delegates. No one spoke to Queen Zira so directly, and certainly no one questioned the importance of established protocol. Queen Zira studied Ben for a long moment. You looked directly at me when you spoke. Are you not afraid? Ben considered his answer carefully. I feel respectful, Your Majesty, but not afraid. In human culture, eye contact shows honesty and respect. We believe that looking away when speaking suggests deception or shame. Interesting, the Queen replied. And you believe your customs are more important than ours? Not more important, Ben said. Just different. I thought maybe understanding our differences might be more valuable than hiding them. Queen Zira's guards shifted nervously. No delegate had ever engaged in such a direct conversation with their ruler. But the Queen herself seemed genuinely intrigued. Tell me, Ambassador Torres, what other human customs do you consider important? Ben felt the weight of representing his entire species, but he also sensed a genuine opportunity. We value curiosity, Your Majesty. We ask questions because we want to learn. We value cooperation because we accomplish more together than alone. And we value kindness because life is difficult enough without making it harder for each other. And these values guide your actions even when they conflict with established rules. Yes, Your Majesty. We believe that rules should serve people, not the other way around. Queen Zira nodded slowly. I see. And what of your personal attachments, Ambassador Torres? Do humans form permanent bonds with others of their species? The question surprised Ben. Yes, Your Majesty. We form friendships, family relationships, and romantic partnerships. These connections are very important to us. And you personally? Have you formed such a romantic partnership? Ben felt his cheeks grow warm. The question seemed oddly personal for a formal diplomatic proceeding. No, Your Majesty. I have not. The chamber was so quiet that Ben could hear his own heartbeat. Queen Zira stepped down from her platform, moving with fluid grace toward the center of the chamber. Her guards followed, but she waved them back. She approached Ben's section, stopping just a few feet away from him. Her silver eyes were fixed on his face, and Ben could see intelligence and curiosity in their depths. You intrigue me, Ambassador Torres, she said, her voice softer than before. Your species displays qualities that I have not encountered in my many years of ruling. You show courage without aggression, kindness without weakness, and honesty without foolishness. Ben felt the eyes of every delegate in the chamber focused on him. Thank you, Your Majesty. Those are the qualities we hope to bring to the Galactic Council. Queen Zira smiled, and Ben realized it was the first time he had seen any expression on her face other than regal composure. The smile transformed her features, making her appear less like an untouchable monarch and more like a person with genuine emotions. I have ruled the Valeth Empire for 3 decades, she said. I have commanded fleets that could destroy planets and negotiated treaties that shaped the fate of entire civilizations. But I have never met someone who treated me as simply another being worthy of respect and honest conversation. She paused, and Ben saw something in her expression that looked almost like nervousness. In my position, I am surrounded by subjects who fear me, enemies who hate me, and allies who need me. But I am curious about something, Ambassador Torres. She took a deep breath, and Ben realized that the most powerful warrior in the galaxy was actually gathering courage for what she was about to say. I wonder, she said, her voice carrying a note of genuine uncertainty that no one in the chamber had ever heard from her before, are you single, human? The question hung in the air like a thunderclap. Ben heard several delegates gasp in shock. Guide necks made a small choking sound. Even the Queen's own guard seemed stunned by their ruler's words. Ben stared into Queen Zira's silver eyes and saw something there that he had not expected, hope. Ben felt his mouth go dry as Queen Zira's question echoed through the silent chamber. Every delegate stood frozen, waiting for his response to what might be the most unexpected diplomatic moment in galactic history. He looked into her silver eyes and saw genuine nervousness there. Despite her power and reputation, she was waiting for his answer like any person who had asked someone a personal question. Yes, Your Majesty, Ben said honestly. I am single. A collective intake of breath swept through the chamber. Several smaller delegates actually stumbled backward. Guide Nex covered his face with all 4 hands and made a low moaning sound. Queen Zira's face brightened with what looked like relief and pleasure. I see, she said, and Ben caught the hint of a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. That is interesting information. One of her royal guards stepped forward, his voice tight with concern. Your Majesty, perhaps we should return to the formal proceedings. Queen Zira turned to face her guard, and her expression returned to its regal composure. Commander Vex, I am quite capable of managing this meeting. Return to your position. The guard hesitated for a moment, then bowed deeply and stepped back. Ben noticed that even the Queen's own warriors were shocked by this turn of events. "Now then," Queen Zira continued, addressing the chamber, "I believe we should adjourn the formal session. I would like to learn more about human customs and culture before making any decisions about Earth's petition." She looked directly at Ben again. "Ambassador Torres, would you be willing to join me for a private discussion about your species' diplomatic intentions?" Ben nodded, aware that this was either a tremendous opportunity or a complete disaster. "I would be honored, Your Majesty." "Excellent. The rest of you are dismissed. We will reconvene tomorrow morning." As the delegates began filing out of the chamber, Ben heard urgent whispers in dozens of different languages. The Pix delegate he had helped earlier approached him quietly. "Ambassador Torres," the small being said, his voice trembling, "no one has ever spoken to Queen Zira so directly and lived. You are either the bravest being in the galaxy or the most foolish." "Maybe both," Ben replied with a nervous smile. Guide Nex appeared at Ben's side, his 4 arms fluttering with anxiety. "This is unprecedented," he whispered. "The Queen has never shown personal interest in any delegate. Ever. I do not know what protocols to follow." Queen Zira approached them, having removed her ceremonial armor to reveal a simple but elegant blue garment underneath. Without the imposing armor, she looked more approachable, though still clearly powerful. "Guide Nex, you are dismissed," she said gently. "Ambassador Torres and I will speak privately. But Your Majesty, I am responsible for his safety and diplomatic protocol requires that I remain present during all formal meetings." "This is not a formal meeting," Queen Zira replied. "This is a conversation between 2 people who are curious about each other's cultures." Nex looked like he might faint, but he bowed and hurried away, muttering to himself in his native language. Queen Zira gestured for Ben to follow her toward a side corridor. "Come, Ambassador Torres. I will show you something that few outsiders have ever seen." Ben walked beside her through corridors that grew progressively smaller and less formal. The crystal walls here were decorated with what looked like personal artwork and photographs of alien landscapes. "These are images from my homeworld," Queen Zira explained, noticing his interest. "Valeth Prime has 7 moons and crystal forests that sing in the wind." "It sounds beautiful," Ben said sincerely. "Earth has only 1 moon, but our forests are full of life. Trees, birds, animals of every kind. I would like to see such a place," she replied quietly. They entered a small chamber with comfortable seating and large windows showing the stars. Queen Zira gestured for Ben to sit across from her in what appeared to be her private quarters. "Ambassador Torres, I must confess something to you," she said, her formal tone giving way to something more personal. "I have been studying reports about your species for several months. Your behaviors fascinate me." "What kinds of behaviors?" Ben asked. "Your tendency to help others without expecting reward. Your willingness to share resources with strangers. Your capacity for what you call friendship across different groups." She paused. "These concepts are foreign to most galactic civilizations." Ben thought about this. What is normal for other species? Hierarchy. Power structures. Strict social rules that prevent chaos. Queen Zira leaned forward slightly. But humans seem to create order through cooperation rather than control. How do you accomplish this? I guess we learned that everyone benefits when we work together, Ben explained. A human saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. When the whole community does well, individuals do well too. Fascinating. Queen Zira's eyes were bright with interest. In Valeth culture, strength comes from individual achievement and dominance over others. But human strength seems to come from connection. What's it like being queen? Ben asked. It must be lonely at the top. Queen Zira looked surprised by the question. Lonely? I had not considered that word, but yes, it is accurate. I make decisions that affect billions of beings, but I cannot show uncertainty or weakness. I must always be the strong leader. That sounds exhausting, Ben said with genuine sympathy. It is. She smiled sadly. I have not had a real conversation in years. My advisors tell me what they think I want to hear. My subjects obey without question. My enemies only speak in threats. But you could change that, couldn't you? You're the queen. Queen Zira laughed, and the sound was musical and warm. You make it sound so simple. Just change the entire social structure of a galactic empire, Zira. No problem. Ben grinned. Well, when you put it like that, it does sound a little ambitious. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime. Queen Zira pressed a crystal panel, and a holographic image appeared of Commander Vex. Your Majesty, the delegate from the Thorian Collective is requesting an emergency audience. He claims the humans' behavior has created a diplomatic crisis. Queen Zira sighed. What kind of crisis? Several species are demanding that Ambassador Torres be expelled from the Council for violating protocol. Others are requesting formal clarification of your intentions regarding the human delegation. Ben felt his heart sink. His casual behavior might have ruined Earth's only chance at joining the galactic community. Tell them I will address their concerns tomorrow, Queen Zira replied firmly. And inform them that any species that cannot tolerate cultural differences might not be suitable for a diverse galactic community. The hologram disappeared, and Queen Zira turned back to Ben. I apologize for the interruption. It seems our conversation has caused quite a stir. I'm sorry, Ben said. I didn't mean to create problems for you or for Earth. You have nothing to apologize for, Queen Zira replied. You acted according to your values, and those values intrigue me. Tell me, what would happen on Earth if someone in power made a decision that others disagreed with? Well, they could speak up about it. Democracy means everyone gets a voice. Everyone. Even those with less power. Especially those with less power. The whole system is designed to protect people from being silenced. Queen Zira was quiet for a long moment. Your species is either very wise or very chaotic. Probably both, Ben admitted. We argue a lot, but we usually figure things out eventually. I would like to learn more about this democracy, she said. Could you explain how it works? Ben spent the next hour describing human political systems, social structures, and cultural values. Queen Zira listened with intense interest, asking thoughtful questions about everything from voting procedures to family relationships. So humans choose their leaders based on trust and shared values rather than strength and fear, she asked. That's the idea, anyway. It doesn't always work perfectly, but most humans believe it's better than being ruled by force. And these leaders can be questioned, criticized, even removed from power. Yes, if they break the law or lose the people's trust. Queen Zira stood and walked to the window, staring out at the stars. For 30 years, I have ruled through strength alone. My people obey because they fear the consequences of disobedience. But what you describe sounds like people choosing to follow because they believe in their leaders. It can work that way, Ben said carefully. But it requires trust on both sides. Trust, Queen Zira repeated. Another concept that is rare in galactic politics. She turned back to face him. Ambassador Torres, I want to ask you something personal. The other delegates avoid eye contact with me, speak only when required, and maintain formal distance at all times. But you look directly at me, ask questions about my feelings, and treat me as you would treat anyone else. Why? Ben thought about his answer. Because you are anyone else, in the ways that matter. You have thoughts and feelings and hopes just like every other person. Being powerful doesn't change that. But I could have you executed for disrespecting my authority. Yes, Ben agreed. But I don't think you would. And even if you did, treating you like a real person instead of just a title feels more important than protecting myself. Queen Zira stared at him in amazement. You would risk your life for a principle. Humans do it all the time. We call it standing up for what's right. Remarkable. She returned to her seat. I must tell you something, Ambassador Torres. When I asked if you were single, I was not following any diplomatic protocol. Ben felt his cheeks warm. I figured that out. I asked because I wanted to know. As a person, not as a queen. She hesitated. I have spent my entire adult life surrounded by people who want something from me. Power, protection, resources, favor. But you seem to want nothing except honest conversation. That's not nothing, Ben said gently. That's something pretty valuable. Yes, she agreed softly. It is. They were interrupted again by another chime. This time, Guide Nex appeared in a hologram, looking frantic. Your Majesty, Ambassador Torres, the situation outside is becoming complicated. 7 different species have filed formal complaints about protocol violations. But 12 other species have requested private meetings with the human delegation to learn more about Earth's customs. Queen Zira looked amused. 12 species want to meet with Earth? Yes, Your Majesty. The Crystalline Confederation is particularly interested in Ambassador Torres's beverage-sharing ritual. They want to establish formal cultural exchange programs. Ben laughed. Cultural exchange programs? Over coffee? The Pix Federation has also requested that Ambassador Torres be assigned as their personal diplomatic advisor, Nex continued. They claim his assistance during the meeting demonstrates superior cooperation skills. And the complaints? Queen Zira asked. The Thorian Collective, Reptilian Alliance, and 3 other traditional powers are demanding that Earth's petition be rejected due to inability to follow established order. Queen Zira stood and straightened her garment. Inform all delegates that I will address their concerns in a public forum tomorrow morning. And Nex? Yes, Your Majesty. Ambassador Torres will sit beside me during the proceedings as my personal guest. Nex's 4 arms flailed in panic. Your Majesty, no delegate has ever been granted that honor. It will cause an uproar. Good, Queen Zira replied with a smile. It is time for some changes around here. The hologram disappeared, leaving Ben and Queen Zira alone again. Your Majesty, are you sure about this? I don't want to cause problems for your empire. Ben, she said, using his first